Well, here we are back again, and this is another remote session. We've done a couple of these here in the fancy, we're going to call this the fancy Author Nation studio, but we have a special guest remoting in. Last one I said was from Antarctica, but I'm going to say she's in like the beaches of Australia. That's where she's coming in from. Kelly Butler, the points maven. Can't wait to dig deep into this topic. This is all about travel hacking and getting your way to Vegas. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I only wish I was in from a beach, but a girl can dream.
Where are you actually? Where are you right now?
I am in beautiful Roswell, Georgia, just north of Atlanta, although I think it was 11 degrees here yesterday. So really not feeling completely like the South. But as the conversation goes on, sometimes you'll hear my Southern twang come out.
Yeah, I understand. We're talking to you from Austin, so even those of us who aren't originally from Austin slip into a Texas twang from time to time.
Yeah, especially after we've had some barbecue. They start to go into a meat sweats, coma nap, start
There
talk,
has been
talking in
barbecue
twang,
for sure.
talking in twang.
So now travel and travel hacking, we had a whole conversation over barbecue yesterday, and this is one of those topics that sort of baffles me. It makes me go sort of caveman and start pounding my chest and trying to figure out like what's going on. I get confused. So first of all, when we say travel hacking, Kelly, what do we mean by that?
Yes. So at its most simplest, for all the other cavemen out there, is that you are strategically leveraging your existing household spend to realize your travel dreams through credit card welcome offers that drive hundreds of thousands of points and miles.
And Chelle, you actually worked in this industry for a while.
I did. I was a travel agent for many, many years, for a very, very long time. But I travel hack. So I'm excited to talk to Kelly to make sure that I'm doing all the things that I need to do. I actually did a mileage run at the end of 2023. I flew to Houston, had lunch, and came back because I needed 278 miles to keep my elite status. So you have to pay attention to these things, but the benefits are tremendous.
I imagine. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you two run at it because you guys are the experts. I'll ask the dumb questions when those come up.
No dumb questions, Kevin. There's no dumb questions. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit about, we've defined travel hacking, but give us some kind of background and some examples of what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about how I got started with this, which was a bit of an unlikely story, but I think sometimes those can be the most fun. So I was actually laid up with COVID some time ago, and I was isolated from my family. And I thought, let me give myself a purpose while I'm in the guest room with my box of tissues and NyQuil. And I thought about how could I put together an affordable trip for my husband and my 20th anniversary. And I knew that I needed to keep this, reasonably priced. And I started sort of getting sucked into some YouTube videos, and I saw people sitting in business class with champagne, lying flat, eating caviar. And I thought, okay, when I have flown internationally, that is not my experience. I'm herded around like cattle in economy, and I'm just sort of wishing the plane trip to be over so that I can get where I'm going. And I just had this mental shift and said, well, if this is possible for other people, if they're using points and miles to earn nearly free travel, could that be possible for us too? And so I started thinking about where would we want to go? And I wanted to get us to Bali. That was my bucket list destination. And I wanted to fly there in business class. So I started backing into how many points am I going to need? I know it's going to be a boatload, but how would that be possible? And short story is that we gained all those points more quickly than I thought. And I booked pretty far ahead. So that Bali trip is coming up this May. We have legs in business class and first class. And last year alone, I booked about $43,000 in nearly free travel just for my family alone. And then I just kept going. And I thought, this is so incredible. I wonder if I can help others get results from this too. And so I started working with other families and testing out some different formulas and models. And now I've got, many testimonials of, earning free flights, free hotels or nearly free, and helping people create the type of travel experiences that they just didn't know were possible for them.
That's amazing. So how do people get started? Like what's the very basic? We've got folks that are coming to Las Vegas and there's still plenty of time for them to start planning this. How do they get started doing this?
Yes. So I think just understanding a few sort of basic rules about travel hacking is really sort of fundamental to anybody's understanding of it. So the first one is that there are different points currencies, is what I call them. Just like we've got the US dollar and we can compare those to other countries' currency, there are different banks that have their own points currencies. The main ones are Citi, Amex, Capital One, and Chase. There are a few others, but these banks offer what's called transferable points. And those are so super exciting to me because each of those banks their currency transfers to a list of hotel and airline partners. And so typically those transferable points have the highest value. And that really is important because one side of the equation is building those points using credit card welcome offers. And then the other side of that equation is actually understanding how to redeem them. How do you actually make a booking with them? And you want to make that booking for the maximum possible value that you can. So understanding that I love to help focus on those transferable miles to start with for beginners because they are the most valuable and they're the most flexible. An example of a fixed point might be Delta Sky Miles. So when you earn a Sky Mile on Delta, typically you'll redeem that only on Delta. They do offer you a few other redemption options, but they're a pretty poor value. I wouldn't recommend them. So that's mostly a fixed point option as opposed to the transferable ones. So that's absolutely where I would start. I would also say that there's an important rule to understand, and that's called the Chase 5 and 24 rule. And that means that Chase will not approve you for any new card if you've opened more than 4 personal credit cards in the last 24 months. And why that's important, I'm kind of a Chase fangirl. They have some of the best cards out there. And so just knowing that, kind of the velocity or how many cards you have opened could impact your ability to get a new card from Chase is something that I like to explain to beginners right off the bat.
So when I got started, when I started, the first card that I opened up was the United Explorer card and started using that to pay for everything. I pay for my groceries, I pay for my gas, I pay for my utilities, I pay for absolutely everything on that so that I'm generating points just for my everyday spend. And then later, Chase sent me a thing that said, hey, if you open up this card, we'll give you 60,000 miles if you spend X number of dollars within a certain period of time. And so I had that's where you're talking about the 5 and 24, right? I was sent another offer and I could open up a second card and they give you a plethora of miles. I redeem them for flights. I also have redeemed them for hotels and I've also redeemed them for upgrades. So you can choose, that's the second half of your equation there is where the redemption comes in. But just when I got started, that's exactly how I got started was I just opened up one credit card, got all the miles, got excited, got hooked, and like a junkie needs their next fix, I opened up a second card.
Exactly. And I think that's a great way to think about it because who doesn't love a deal? And I think that that's why so many of the people that I work with, it's coming from word of mouth because just like you'll come home and maybe you got the most insane deal on this new car that you just bought, or even just a new coat that you bought at the store that you want to tell people about it. And that is exactly what this is like. And I just helped a family yesterday. They've got a family of 4 that are heading to Spain and Portugal this summer during prime time season, during the Paris Olympics, when there's a huge demand in Europe. And we were able to get them 4 flights direct to Madrid, and they paid 120,000 points on a Delta flight. And Delta actually wanted 120,000 points per person. So in that case, we're, using an advanced strategy of booking through an airline alliance partner. So you're actually on the same flight as everybody else, but you paid a quarter of what everybody did in miles. And the cash value of those tickets was just under $7,000. So that's maybe 2 cards, with a $95 annual fee, and you've got 4 tickets to Spain.
There's lots of tips and tricks and strategies. I will say it can get very complicated. So I love the fact that there's people you can ask that can actually be like a Sherpa or a Maven to help you navigate those kinds of things, because it can, I mean, for me, it got to be obsessively like full-time job for a few weeks there. I was really getting excited about it.
Everyone I've ever seen get involved in this gets obsessed with it.
It's almost like gamified, right? It's
Yeah.
gamification. And I mean, I remember when I got to the end of 2023 and I was looking at my statement and I was thinking, have I spent enough to make up those 278 miles? And when I realized I didn't, I mean, I had to hop on a plane the next day just to fly 278 miles. But here's the thing. I kept my elite status and I got first class on the way back because I got my elite status. So your spend actually goes towards status, not just free tickets. It also includes perks and benefits like 2 checked bags of luggage. Just for having my United Explorer card, I get 2 free checked bags. I get priority lane without paying for it. Like there's all kinds of things that I can get. I get 2 free passes to the United Lounge every year. So there's those kinds of little luxuries. Let's be honest, those used to be sort of things that you could expect when you traveled before. They were just like the norm. Now they're the luxuries that make travel more bearable. And in my case, I can't live without them. I'm so bougie. Sorry.
Absolutely. And I think, who doesn't just want to make those travel days less stressful? And I think you bring up such a great point about the perks. And so some of these cards will offer, like you said, lounge access. There's different lounge networks. And depending on which airport you're flying out of, you can access that as a place to get free food, free drinks, relax. And then my husband and I had a lunch date last week and went and so we had our interview for TSA pre-check, and that came as a perk of one of our cards. So that was the $78 a piece that we got for free. And so next time we're at the airport, we'll be able to go into shorter lines and just anything to make those travel days with more ease, more relaxation, and less stress. And the perks are absolutely a big part of that.
Yeah.
And I also love what you said about, spending, kind of shifting and putting all of your spend on the card. And I think it's just a habit change. I mean, I personally hid my debit card from out of sight. I hardly touch it anymore just because I treat my credit card like a treat my credit card like a debit card, in that I pay it off every month.
Yes.
And I think that's also something for beginners to take note of, is that any travel hacking benefits can quickly be erased if you're allowing interest to pile up on the card. So I definitely recommend shifting all of your spend to the card and then paying it off every month, just, like you're spending cash.
Yeah. I'm also really strategic about each of the different cards that I have a shopping component. So Mileage Plus has Mileage Plus X. So when I just went and had my, I needed a new battery for my MacBook, I went to Apple, I went through the Mileage X program, I bought a gift card to get the miles and paid for that with the gift card. I got 2 miles for the spend, and it took me no more time than handing him my credit card. It was no different than just jumping on the app, buying a gift card, paying for it with the gift card. It was the most seamless transaction. But those are the kinds of things that I've now trained myself to do. I've also signed up for all of the dining programs. So anytime I order DoorDash or Grubhub or any of the other, food delivery services, or when I go to restaurants, I know which card I want to use. I travel hack that in advance so that I know I'm getting the maximum amount of points. And the difference, it seems like it's very small, but it adds up very, very quickly. I mean, very, very quickly. and depending on how you spend, it can be a godsend. I also use that for status match. Can you talk a little bit about status match and what that is, Kelly? And
Yeah, absolutely. And so there are periods of time where, of course, airlines are competing against one another, right? They all want your business. And so they will, from time to time, offer different promotions depending on what's going on in the marketplace. And they may offer what they call a status match. So, just as an example, we were just talking about United, and let's say that Delta is looking to poach some of United's audience and customer base. So Delta might come out and say, well, we're going to any elite passengers on United, we're going to let you status match to that same elite status on Delta and offer you those same types of perks. And so the level of perks, I will say, varies quite widely between airline. Delta that's my hub here in outside of the Atlanta area. But it happens that Delta has the most sold out seats in their premium cabins. And so what that means is they have far fewer seats to allow for upgrades for elite passengers. So I'm just aware of that when if I'm choosing an airline to sort of go after elite status, and just thinking about, am I going to get the benefits out of that elite status, or might I choose a premium credit card that's going to give me opportunities to use points to purchase premium cabin seats or use lounge access and go about getting those sort of luxury perks using points. So the elite status is a great option if you're loyal to a certain airline and you've got that as your hub. And you can take advantage of those status matches. And then you can also get those same perks, through a credit card strategy as well.
So here's a tip for our Author Nation visitors.
I'm listening.
A status match is also good for hotels. So for example, because of my elite status on United Airlines, I have a status with Marriott, and Marriott has a status match with Caesars. So I have not qualified directly with Caesars, but I have qualified with another hotel through my plan. But when I go to Caesars, to the Horseshoe in November, I am an elite member just because I have an elite with another program. What that gets me at Caesars is free parking. I mean, who doesn't love that?
Right.
Also, for Indie Author Magazine, we hosted a happy hour, and I used loyalty points to pay for everyone's drinks at the lobby bar.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
impressive.
Those are little things, right? You're doing almost no extra work. You're just shifting your spending, but then you're watching and taking advantage of things. And again, that's where a service or a person that can help you navigate those things and make the most of those opportunities is absolutely crucial, right? Because you can go down the rabbit hole like I do for days and days and days, but knowing how to leverage all of those different daisy-chained opportunities is really what makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. Seems stressful to me.
It can be, but when you're sitting at the lobby bar with a gin and tonic.
A lot less stress when you've got a drink in your hand.
Free gin and tonics at the lobby bar.
That's right. And I mean, what an amazing way to make friends fast. And, speaking of Author Nation, I did have a few tips for travel hacking your way to the conference. You think we should talk about that now?
I think you should share them all.
I am all ears.
Okay. All right. So if we're talking about flights and hotels, so getting into Vegas. So of course, Author Nation is coming up November 11th to the 15th of this year. And thankfully, there are lots of airlines that are flying into Vegas. And so the reason why that's a benefit is because it opens up more opportunity to compare award flights for different carriers. Depending on where you live and where you're coming from, your flight may actually be more expensive in cash than your hotel. So what I would encourage you to do is go online, have a look you can go to Google Flights, which is just one of my favorite free tools. When you enter in your home airport and then put in Vegas, you'll see all the carriers that fly from your home airport into Vegas, and it's going to give you and it's some approximate cash values. So compare that to your hotel room cost. I think when I looked, the reserved rooms for Author Nation at the Horseshoe were somewhere around $101 a night. So add up how many nights you're going to be there and then your flight and which one is more expensive. That's the flight or the hotel. Choose which one you want to travel hack first so that you're getting the maximum cash value from your points. So that would be first step. And then secondly, Southwest, American, and Delta are some of the main airlines that are flying into Vegas. And I will actually have a freebie that we'll talk about a little bit more, but I'm going to create a little matrix chart for you so that you can understand which airlines are flying in. And then I'm going to map that back to a credit card that can earn points for that particular airline from your home city. So it helps you zero in on a credit card to start with. So when it comes to hotels, I have looked at a number of the hotel options in Vegas and compared that to the Author Nation block of rooms at the Horseshoe, and it is already an incredible value. So at somewhere around $100 a night, the price is already really low. And if you don't want to come out of pocket for that cash, I'm going to talk to you about how you can sort of cover the cost of your room block at the Horseshoe in a new way. So there are a couple of bank bonuses out there simply for opening a checking account. So Chase has one going on it's a $300 cash offer for a $2,000 bank deposit. And Amex has one going on that gives you 40,000 points, which is an estimated value of around $800. So looking at what bonuses for simply opening up a new bank account can give you that cash bonus that you could then apply to the cost of your hotel. It's kind of an indirect travel hacking, but it actually doesn't involve any points. It's just earning cash on something that you might do anyway, and then leveraging that for the opportunity to travel and to get to the amazing conference in November.
And now I know what I'm doing this afternoon. I'm going to go open up a new account.
Yes, and I'm playing back this entire podcast so that I can remember how to open a new account.
It can get a little bit confusing. And I think that's why, coming from the travel industry before, we had travel agents that helped us navigate A to B flights. We have Google Flights now. We don't need that. But we do need people like Kelly that can help you navigate the intricacies of maximizing your miles, your dollars, your spend, your strategy for doing all of these things so that you aren't leaving money on the table, really. I mean, it's basically free money and free travel.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
But don't go it alone.
I'm sold.
That's my tip.
No, I'm gonna check out Kelly's website and everything so that I can learn more. So
it's insane.
Yeah.
What other tips do you have for us, Kelly?
Yeah, so I will say I'll sort of leave you guys with this is that I've got a couple of free resources that I created just for the Author Nation audience. And so the first one, as I mentioned, is this little kind of a chart that helps you back into an airline that's from your home city so that you can know if you'd like to begin a first step in a travel hacking journey, that you can open an initial credit card to use for your flight to Vegas. So that would be one resource. And then the second thing that I want you all to know is that almost everybody actually qualifies for a business credit card, even if you don't think you do. If you are an author and you haven't earned money this year, but you anticipate it, you qualify for a business card. If you sell things on Facebook Marketplace, you qualify for a business card. Or if you have an actual EIN and a registered LLC or registered business, then of course you qualify for a business credit card. Those are so compelling because they offer usually greater sign-up bonuses and they don't count towards your Chase 5 and 24 rule, meaning that you can open them without that impact. So the second freebie I'm going to have for you is talking about the best business card offers out there in this quarter of 2024. And some tips on how to apply, either using your social security number or your registered business to have the best chance of becoming approved and thinking about yourself as a business that opens up even more opportunities for your travel hacking.
Brilliant. Thank you for those. Those, I'm sure, our Author Nation We'll appreciate those.
And it's never a bad idea for authors to think of themselves in terms of business.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
India is taking charge of your career. This is definitely one way to do that.
Absolutely. And I love that idea of stepping into it, becoming that new version of yourself. We've all have been there at some point when we're growing into that person that we want to become. And I love to think about that next version of myself and the luxury and the lifestyle that I want. And it helps me visualize that and get there and not think that, this type of travel is only for someone else. And I'd love for you guys to think the same way, that it's not just for someone else and that it could be for you too.
Amazing.
All right. With that, I mean, unless you got more wisdom you want to drop on us before we wrap things up. No,
I think that's about it. I'm so excited to hear more about the conference as it approaches and all the excitement that's building. And I just have loved being with you guys today. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Kelly.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to wrap up. For those of you tuning in, either via the podcast or the YouTube channel, make sure you're go to authornation.live, because that's where you're going to find out about the actual conference, when it's going to be, where it's going to be, all the things that are important. And you can get your tickets there. That's the most important.
And you can book your hotel.
And book your hotel
And
use
hotel.
your points and
Use
hack this
your
whole
money.
thing.
Yes.
Do it. I'm going to go take a whole crash course on this, because I'm walking away dazed and confused. But
But
I
that's
know
nothing new, Kevin.
that's nothing new. I started off that way, in all fairness. But for all of you tuning in, make sure you also follow the rest of the podcast. All these episodes that are floating around out there. Amazing guests like Kelly Butler. And we will see all of you next time. Take care.